Go ahead. Just pull out the stock. Open. And we're open. Hi, this is Misha.
This is Jay.
And this is another episode of Discussion at the Range, or Range Discussion, or something like that.
We haven't settled on a good title yet.
Now, today we brought out two guns that are quite similar in a lot of ways. In my hands is the Colt M16 LMG, or rather the upper on a semi-automatic lower from the 80s.
And I've got a VEPR-1V. This is a Molot Russian-made RPK.
Yep, it's a copy of the RPK, basically RPK 74M, but both of these are in 223 5.56 NATO. And so in Russia, that would be one of the RPK 101 or 201 series. They do make them in select fire for export. They're just, these are two light machine gun versions of famous guns, M16 and AK-47, and try shooting them both on the bipod and out of the hand. So what'd you think?
I probably should start off by saying I'm biased towards AKs.
Just tell the world you hate the AR.
I'm not going to do that.
Out yourself.
I don't hate the AR.
Well, you guys know me. I don't like AKs at all.
This is where we disagree. Like, he's a big AR guy.
Yeah, look at all my past videos. Yeah. No, I love AKs. I mean, I have a few ARs, but I have easily more AKs than ARs.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat, basically. I understand the purpose and have absolute respect for the AR platform. I've got a couple of them for that reason, but I've always liked shooting AKs better.
And there's more diversity. I mean,
Sure.
That's the thing about ARs, that maybe there's more different styles, but there's just a few. But that's kind of why I ended up with this M16. This is a Canadian-made, Diemaco-made M16 LMG upper. In Colt speak, it would be a 750 type upper. And I mated it with a period-correct Colt lower from the late 80s, early 90s. So it even has the hydraulic buffer in the buttstock, but obviously since it's a legal semi-auto, it fires from a closed bolt. And the VEPR-1V, as we already mentioned, is purely Russian, except for a few US parts thrown in.
Right. I fully came into this expecting to like the VEPR better overall. Again, I'm more biased towards the AK platform than the AR platform. And this thing, the Colt LMG, is really ridiculous in a lot of ways. I mean, as far as the overbuiltedness, and that's even saying something comparing it to an RPK.
Yeah, the RPK is substantially lighter, folks.
It's shockingly lighter. That said, shooting both from the shoulder and from the hip, which you saw me shooting, and I did shoot from the shoulder as well.
And I fired that one with the stock folded.
Right.
So this
So
one
we
obviously fixed stock.
Shot both kind of ways, basically. I found the Colt to be more fun to shoot. It was a little easier to rapid fire, which is kind of what you want to do with an LMG type gun, right? Like, that's fully practical. Usually AKs, the stock triggers or the semi-auto triggers lend themselves to rapid fire and bump fire type stuff better than ARs do. But in this case, I actually found the Colt trigger to be a little bit quicker.
Yeah, this is a military trigger. Keep in mind, this is an older, I mean, it's not worn out, but it's, a good 30 years old probably, so it's nicely broken in. And that one has the newer Arsenal trigger that came out this year in it, which is basically a U.S. copy of the Molot semi-automatic trigger group, and that's why I put it in that gun, because it matches that gun real well.
I mean, obviously the AR is, there's no creep or anything.
Yeah.
It's just you pull it and it shoots.
It's an AR trigger.
Whereas this is an AK trigger. It's got a little bit of slop and take up before it actually breaks. The Arsenal triggers, the new Arsenal triggers, though, are much, much better, in my opinion, than the old Arsenal triggers. So there are lots of things that can be done to improve triggers on either firearm, but we're shooting what we have.
And we're kind of mil-spec people. This one, the trigger is an AR trigger, is what it is. Now, I do think the hydraulic buffer, because we shot this gun a couple of years ago before we had the hydraulic buffer in here, and I think it actually does, for one thing, it takes the spring completely out of the gun, the springy feel.
Yes. Yeah,
that's nice.
That's noticeable. One thing I definitely do not like about a lot of ARs, especially cheaper made ARs, is the springiness in the buttstock. I've shot a lot of different Colts and stuff, and usually that's mitigated quite a bit, but certainly that's an issue. With this, it's not an issue. And I really do think that regardless of the weight of this Colt, the recoil is very light. It just doesn't move around much, especially because I shot both from the hip, which you'll see in the video, or which you have seen in the video, and I just thought that it just didn't jump around as much, and that could be largely a weight thing, but I really do think it's mostly just how this gun is designed to be shot.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pulling it back here, it's locked. Having my hand on the stock, I can barely feel any vibration. Even though it's a hydraulic buffer, it obviously does have a spring in it, but it's a different spring, it's a little bit shorter, and the buffer's a little heavier. And I think it really does help, even as semi. I put it in initially just for completeness' sake to make a authentic as possible semi M16 LMG, but I honestly do think that it makes the shooting experience better.
So let's talk about practicality. If the practicality discussion can be had about semi-light machine guns.
Yeah, semi-auto, closed bolt, magazine-fed, fixed barrel light machine gun.
Which one do you feel like is more practical?
I'm going to go with the RPK on practicality.
I agree completely. And the reason that I agree is, for one, you're not dealing with an incredibly rare bird like this gun here. But this shoulder's much, much better than the Colt does. The Colt is so front heavy.
This barrel, I know it looks fat out here. Under the handguard, it's even fatter.
It looks like a 12-gauge barrel.
Yeah.
Whereas this, you have some significant weight in the front trunnion here, like just below your offhand. So even though you have a lot on the bipod and in the weight of the barrel, you still have a lot of weight here and beefiness here just under your hand. And then, of course, once you add a fully loaded magazine, the weight of the buttstock, it just balances a lot better. And this actually is quite shootable. It's a little beefy in the front, but it is quite shootable from the shoulder, whereas the Colt really is not very practical for that.
It's definitely a bench shooting thing. I will say that I'd say the Colt has a better bipod because it has adjustable legs.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And it doesn't have the spring clip. You just squeeze and unsqueeze to deploy. It's a little faster, easier to use bipod. This is essentially a copy of the M60 bipod that they put on this. One thing I'll add too on this Colt, the carry handle, it folds, which is nice. But it and this very large foregrip are one piece, and they are pinned to the barrel. They're not part of this handguard. The issue there is heat transfer. The top of this foregrip and the bottom here of this carry handle get extremely hot. In fact, this is probably the hottest part of the gun that you can touch.
Yeah, that was very unexpected.
Yeah, I kind of surprised both of us. I mean, the handguards look cool, but they're probably not as practical. I mean, there's not really a great way to shoot this, and it really is heavier. And the funny thing is, the barrel's shorter than on that RPK.
Yeah.
20-inch versus 23, 22 on that one.
That difference doesn't
Yeah.
translate in feel, for sure.
Exactly, even though it's still the RPK manages to be lighter. Now, of course, you do get AR-15 ergonomics with this versus AK on that, but that's kind of personal preference. The mag thing, yes, it takes standard AR mags. It was issued with 30 rounds. You could put a Beta C. That one takes Rock and Lock mags that are 45 that are proprietary, more or less, to the Russian 223 gun. So when those were available, they weren't that expensive, but nowadays they're climbing up there. But both guns have always been 100% reliable.
Yeah, we've never had failures with either.
And both have been out at least 4 times over the years. But we just thought it'd be a really neat comparison of 2 relatively rare guns. And that's the only Russian RPK that's really come into the country. This is really the only squad automatic version of the M16 that ever issued, because it never was adopted by America. It was developed by Colt mid-'80s and went onto the market in 1988. And it had a few purchasers, but it was small quantities. Now, this also to be said, since this is made up in Canada, we do have a chrome-lined cold hammer forged barrel, and that also has a chrome-lined cold hammer forged barrel. So both barrels should be equally great.
And we didn't shoot either of these for accuracy. Obviously, you saw in the video that we're just shooting as fast as possible because they're like machine guns. That's what you do, right?
Yeah.
I have one of the VEPR-1V and find it to be, even in 7.62x39, shooting really, really cheap steel case ammo to be really exceptionally accurate. That's been a lot of people's experiences. I don't have any doubt that the same translates into this gun, with it being a heavier barrel, longer barrel, and 223. And I'm sure that this is AR accurate as well.
Now, one thing to say about that, because of the longer barrel and where the front sight is, you do get a longer sight radius, and you get the windage adjustable rear sight.
And there is a side scope rail on this,
yep.
So you can easily mount an optic here, whereas this, you have this fixed carry handle, and you have to
I'm not moving this thing around a lot, guys, because it really is heavy, and we've had a long day and we're tired.
We had to play rock, paper, scissors to decide who would hold that for this video.
I wanted to hold that one. Not because this gun's awesome, it's just, luckily I can rest it on my legs and it's fine, but yeah, this one you have the same sight radius as any M16A2. In fact, this rear sight was originally designed for this gun and then was carried over to the M16A2. So this was the origins of this critter. Oh, and obviously this is a fixed stock because of the buffer, and that has a nice folding stock, which would be good for transport. I mean, you can lob off nearly a foot, 10 inches at least, making the gun reasonably compact.
Yep. And
you can fire it with the stock closed, as you saw. It fires fine. I would attribute to that because it has that larger pistol grip, which it came with that grip. So I just thought this would be a really neat comparison. Neither of these guns is currently on the market. Maybe one day we'll see something like the VEPR-1V.
There, towards the end, where they were making announcements about all kinds of up-and-coming products that they were hoping to get out, that the Molot factory was hoping to get out, it was really exciting. And seeing just the very relatively small variants that we got in were all really cool. So it's hopefully we'll see something again from them.
See, that came in with IO, and they just lost interest. Now that FIME, basically, which is Arsenal, is handling the Molot line, we're hopeful.
I also want to take this time to mention that Misha has an IO AK in his collection.
I have 2.
2?
Archer.
How can you take this guy seriously if anything he says about AKs now?
The Archer and the
VEPR-1V?
Yeah.
Pitiful.
Yeah, I know. I don't know anyone else who would want to own an Archer.
Me neither.
No, yeah, it's just horrible. Yeah, that was the thing about those VEPRs. It was just right gun, wrong importer. Now, a gun like this, a fixed carry handle gun, no rails, it's not going to happen. In fact, they quit making these around 2001. They went to a flat top version and more modern squad automatic, kind of like the M27 look. But Colt's also moved on to things like the 6940 and all that. So
well, you can always get an M249 if you have $8,000 to spare.
Yeah, and it would make this gun seem light. So it is worth $8,000 right here because this gun is about 5 pounds lighter.
Yep.
This is about a 14-pound gun. And this upper was sold by CDNN many, many years ago. So they did sell some complete LMG uppers. If you have any questions or comments, please post them below. We'll do our best to reply as quick as we can. And if you haven't already, we really appreciate it if you'd subscribe. And please tune in again next time. I'm Misha.
I'm Jay.
We'll catch you then.